Today we are fixing up 3 fantastic Thanksgiving side dishes, and I think you're just going to love these recipes. Hi, I'm Melissa Diane, and on this channel we have so much fun in the kitchen and in the garden and just all around our home, and these side dishes I think are quickly going to become your favorite. So let's get to our first one. Today we are fixing up the most wonderful ever Thanksgiving cornbread dressing, and I promise you, you are just going to love this recipe. Here are all the ingredients that we're going to be using today for our cornbread dressing, and I'll put all of this in the description section below the video also. And I also will show you some of the items that I prepped early before we actually cook the casserole. First of all, over here, this is some toast. This was, I believe, about 6 slices of white toast, and it's all crumbled up. Here is the cornbread. Now, I use 2 packages of the store-bought cornbread. I make cornbread from scratch a lot, but not for this recipe. For this one, those 2 packages, you cook them and crumble them. And I did this the day before because I found it really tastes better when you go ahead and do these 2 items the day before. Back here, we've got some chicken broth, a can of cream of chicken soup, a stick of butter or 2 little halves, about 1 1/3 cups of milk, a couple of chicken bouillon cubes. Now this over here is about 1 medium onion. I chopped this up the day before. Also, there's 2 cups of celery, and I chopped this up also the day before. Over here I've got some green onions that I went ahead and chopped up. We've got 4 eggs. And then for our spices, we've got some black pepper, crushed red pepper, paprika, and then over here is some chopped up parsley. Now, what I actually did the day before is I took the amounts of each of these, and I went ahead and I put those right here in a baggie. So this is all ready to go. So today I don't have to measure it. Now in this package of my seasoning, there is a couple of tablespoons of sugar along with these right here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start getting our butter melted because we're going to saute the onions and our celery. So let's get this in here and we'll get it turned on. Now it's going to melt pretty quick. So I've got over here my onions and celery and everything. Let's sit them here. And as this butter's starting to melt, I'm going to tell you about a video that I did, and it's posted up there, and you need to be sure and check it out if you're wanting to learn some ways to save time on Thanksgiving Day and even the day before. Let me turn this down a little because I've got some great tips for you on that video about how to do that and how to do a lot of this prepping before you actually cook all of your Thanksgiving dishes. Wiggle this around and let it melt. We've got our Thanksgiving, look at that. We've got our eat, drink, and give thanks spatula. So we are in the holiday spirit. So this is just about melted. I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to pour in my celery. And if you noticed, obviously, like I said a while ago, I already have these chopped up. And I have a video, and I'll make sure I have it pop up at the end for you. And it's a great video on how to do a lot of this prepping before you actually cook your Thanksgiving dinner. Because I don't know about you, but I just absolutely love Thanksgiving. I love cooking the different dishes, and I love having my friends and family over, but I don't like the stress a lot of times that you get when you're trying to do all of it on Thanksgiving Day. So I have learned over the years how to make things a little bit easier on Thanksgiving. And that really all comes down to the prep. Now we've got our onions, here we go. One of the really neat things about this dressing is that when you get it all finished, it looks like a Thanksgiving dressing because it's so colorful. There's a lot of green, and then with the red pepper that goes in it, there's a little bit of red, and it just really makes it look super, super festive. So we're going to saute these right here for a few minutes, and then we'll be right back. Now, as this is continuing to saute for just a little while, I'm going to go ahead and get a really large bowl, and I'm going to get all of the other ingredients mixed in that bowl and then we'll pour this into the rest of the dressing. I used to do everything in this pan. It would get full all the way up to the top, and the dressing is going to be a little bit soupy when we get it all mixed together, and it just got to where it is this pan becomes extremely heavy when I do that. So I've decided the last couple years to do it in 2 different bowls. So let me bring that other bowl over. Gone ahead and I've preheated the oven to 350, and I wanted to go ahead and show you the casserole dish that we're going to be using today. And it's about a 9 by 13. It's pretty deep, and this dressing will fill up the majority of this casserole dish. Now the bowl that we're going to be using to mix everything else in, here we go. And let me get the toast and the cornbread. So I'm going to go ahead and get the cornbread, and this is one of the items that I made the day before. I made this yesterday. So I actually made this. If you're celebrating your Thanksgiving on Thursday on Thanksgiving, then you would do this on Tuesday. And this was just 2 packets of that cornbread that you just get at the store. Like I said earlier, I do like to cook a lot of cornbread from scratch, and I've got several videos on that. But for this recipe, I find it just really works best just to use a couple of those packets. And then the toast. So I've got some white bread. It's just white bread, and I've crumbled that all up after I toasted it. Just toast it in the toaster. And again, this does better if you can do this a couple of days, or at least a day before you cook it. It's just going to have a better consistency for your dressing. Plus, it saves you a lot of time on the day that you're cooking it. Now I'm going to put in our seasonings, and this is a little bit of the sugar, and there is black pepper, red pepper in here, and also some paprika. If you just measure that out the night before, then all you have to do is dump it in there. And now I'm going to pop over here, and we're also going to go ahead and put in the parsley. I like to use fresh parsley, and I use a lot of it. If you don't have fresh parsley, then parsley flakes will work really well also. But that fresh parsley also just helps to really just give that bright green color in that dressing. This makes it really pretty. We're going to put in here 1 can of cream of chicken soup. I'm going to go ahead and just mix this up. We've got a lot more liquid we're going to be putting in here. Now I've got our 4 eggs, and I'm just going to whisk these up really quick. And then we're going to drop these in there and do some more mixing. And I so hope that you will try this recipe, because I really just think that this is one of the best things that I have ever cooked. I think it is just fantastic, and I think you'll just love it. If you don't already have a family favorite dressing, I hope you'll adopt this one. Let's pull this over here. Let's put this in. For the bouillon cubes, what I usually will do, I just take a little thing like this. I just put a little bit of water in the bottom of it, and then I'm going to drop both of these in here. I don't put a ton of water, just a little bit, and I'm going to sit these in here now. This is super boiling hot water, and I'm going to let those sit in there for a few minutes, and those are going to dissolve. So we're going to scoot that back here to the back and let those dissolve. Okay, so it's been about 2 minutes, about 1.5 to 2 minutes, and I just had a knife right here, so I just took that knife and just kind of broke up the little cubes of chicken bouillon. And it's just about all dissolved. And now we're going to pour that in. There's a few little chunks there, that's okay. Let's mix this all together. This is starting to smell so good. These onions over here and this celery, y'all, it is definitely smelling like Thanksgiving. Now I'm going to go ahead and we are going to put our celery and onions in. Remember, we still have left our milk and our broth over here. So let me pick this up. Turn the heat off, and let's put this in. Let's mix this all together. This is starting to look beautiful. And if you notice those dark green specks in there, Those are the green onions. So I like to chop those up. Don't leave those out because it really makes a difference in what this dressing looks like and also what it tastes like. Now once you get it all done and everything's all in here, before you put it into the casserole, go ahead and I want you to taste it and see if you need some extra spices. Sometimes after I do that, I'm like, oh, I need a little bit more pepper, or might need a little bit more red pepper. You just never know. It's looking really, really good. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my milk. This was about 1 1/4 cups. I'll usually go ahead and put in about 3/4 of my amount. This is going to really soak all this liquid up. And don't panic at the end if it's soupy, because it's going to be. You want it to be, you don't want it to be all super firm. If you've never made dressing before, the first time I ever made this a long time ago, I was freaking out because it was so soupy, but this will soak everything up. I'm still fairly new to a lot of cooking, but when it comes to Thanksgiving, I've been doing Thanksgiving for a really long time. And so I've always learned it's okay if that dressing is soupy because it's going to really soak it up. Now I'm going to go ahead and put in our chicken broth. Now what my granddaddy used to do, he would use a couple of those cans of like Swanson's chicken broth. And they weren't those small cans that are like 16 ounces. They were those bigger fat cans. And I don't know about you, but I have a really hard time finding those. My grocery store doesn't carry those on a regular basis. So what I've learned is that I'll just use one of these containers of chicken broth. And this is from H-E-B, our local grocery store here in South Texas. I'm close to Houston. And it's 32 ounces. I'm not going to use all of it, but I've learned that I'm going to probably use a good amount. I just kind of have to do it by feel. I don't mix it super vigorously hard. You just kind of want to fold it in there. And that really allows it to, once it gets going like this, it really allows it to soak it up well. So I'll stir it kind of hard at first, and then when I'm doing this part, I just kind of fold it in like this and let it really absorb all that liquid. It's looking good. I can already tell that I'm probably going to put a little bit more red pepper in because I like to be able to see that red color in the casserole. I've gone ahead now and I put, you can see just across the top right there, you can see that I put a little bit more of that red pepper, not a ton, but just a little bit. I like to be able to see it after it's cooked, and then also it just gives a nice little spice. We do like a lot of flavor and a lot of spices in a lot of our dishes. And if you like really spicy cornbread, check out my video on jalapeno cornbread. Oh, that is so good. But for Thanksgiving, I like to keep it a little bit more traditional. I don't know about you, but I have tried over the years sometimes to change up the traditional dishes and the casseroles. And my family, really, they're like, Mom, what are you doing? Don't mess with the green beans. What are you doing? Don't change it up. So for Thanksgiving, we just pretty much keep it the same. And if you get a chance after you've watched this video, please go into the comment section and let me know any traditional different types of dishes that you make every year, because I'm always wanting to learn something new. I may not use it for Thanksgiving, but I can use it for other things. And I love sharing recipes that other people and that some of y'all have shared with me, and to share that on the channel and be able to say, you know, Susie sent in this recipe. It's looking good. It looks like since I can do a little bit more liquid, I'm going to finish up the milk. And we are getting close to where I think we can say, I think we're nice and soupy, but not too soupy. And we're going to put this now into our casserole dish. Looky here, y'all. I have just poured this in here, and I didn't film pouring it in here because sometimes I'm not that graceful pouring that in this big old pan. But my gosh, look at this. It is going to be fantastic. So now let's go to the oven. Here we are, and we are headed into the oven, and we're on 350. For about, we're going to check this in about 40 minutes. It's been about 35 minutes. So I'm going to pull this out and look at it. And let's see, I like to usually take a toothpick and I kind of put into it just to kind of see how it's doing, make sure it's not too gooey, and it is not. It's not too gooey, and we don't want it dry. So we're gonna go ahead and take it out. Sometimes it will get slightly brown on top. That's my timer. But I think we're gonna go ahead and take it out. Here we are out of the oven. Oh, this smells wonderful and it looks beautiful. Today we are fixing up the most wonderful ever Thanksgiving sweet potato casserole. Here are the ingredients that we're going to be using today for our Thanksgiving sweet potato casserole. And I will put all of the measurements and all of directions for this recipe in the description below the video. The first thing you're going to need obviously is your sweet potatoes, and you're going to use probably anywhere from 4 to 5 sweet potatoes for this recipe. You're going to want to have some milk, have a little bit of sugar, also a couple of eggs, 2 large eggs, and then for butter you're going to need 2 sticks of butter or 4 of these little halves. You're going to need some vanilla. And then for the topping that you're going to put on top of this casserole, you need 3 things. You're going to need to have some crushed up pecans. You're going to need to have some flour and then some brown sugar. And if you'll notice, I have all of these in little baggies, and that is because I prepped this yesterday. So I like to prep for all my casseroles the day before I'm going to cook them. It makes it a lot easier, and I'll make sure at the end of the video that I have a video on prepping and how to do that real easily. It'll pop up for you, so be sure and check that out. So now let's jump right into it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get a pot of water back here boiling so we can cook our sweet potatoes. So while that is getting ready and coming to a boil, I'm going to go over and peel all of these sweet potatoes, and I'll be right back. I've taken my sweet potatoes and I've chopped those up into some smaller pieces, and we're going to go ahead and put those in here now and let this come to a really good boil. Let these little guys cook really good. We're going to leave these sweet potatoes in here probably, we'll check on them in about 15 minutes. While our sweet potatoes are over on the cooktop and they are still boiling, we're going to go ahead and get started on our topping for our sweet potatoes, because it takes a few minutes to do this. So we're going to take a stick of butter. I got 2 of these little half sticks. We're going to put this in here, and then I'm just going to kind of chop this up just a little bit. And this butter has been sitting out for probably about an hour. So you want to let it just kind of sit out while you're doing something else. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in here my brown sugar. There we go. Brown sugar, and you can see I had these also in little baggies because I got this all prepped yesterday. We got some brown sugar, and then we have our flour. So we're going to put this in here. And we also have our pecans, but I'm not going to put those in there quite yet. And then what I just do is I sit here and I just kind of mash this up, and you just mash it, and you just kind of cut that butter, cut it in small little pieces. And you may have an easier way to do this, and if so, please, in the description, let me know. But I have just usually found I just take this butter and I will just cut this into small pieces, and I'll do this just over and over and over. And then I'll mash it, and you're going to get a really good consistency with this. And then we'll put in the pecans. So we're going to sit here and do this, and I'll be back in a few minutes. We are doing really good. I have just been mashing and mashing. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put in our chopped up pecans. And these are just plain pecans. Sometimes I have put in, they're by Fisher. They're called honey roasted. And I love those pecans. They are so, so good. And sometimes I have used those in this. But today we're just doing just the regular pecans. And we're just going to mix this all around. This is going to be a wonderful topping. Another topping that's really good and it's really easy is when your casserole, right before it's done, take it out of the oven and just put some marshmallows, some little bitty marshmallows all across the top, and then put it back in. And if you're not someone who likes nuts and pecans, oh, that is a fantastic topping. That's actually, I think, my favorite, but my family really likes this pecan one. Our sweet potatoes are now all ready. And what I do, just a little tip, is that when these sweet potatoes are all, when they're over there and they're cooking on the cooktop, and when they start to float, then I know they're getting close to being done. And I think these went for probably about 20 minutes today. So you're going to go ahead and put in your stick of butter, or 2 little halves. I really like using these half sticks instead of a whole stick, because a lot of times all you need is just a half. So I'm going to put this in here. We're just going to mash this up really, really good. If you want to, sometimes you can just drain your pot, and then you can put your sweet potatoes back in that same pot that you cooked on over on the cooktop. But for me, it's easier to manage just to scoop those little guys out and put them over here in a nice big bowl. If you are not a huge sweet potato lover, you know, I'm not just normally a big sweet potato lover, but this recipe, it's kind of like you're turning these little guys into candy almost. They are just so, so good. It really is smelling good just with that butter. Now we're going to go ahead and put in the milk. And when you get these completely done, they're going to be a little bit soupy, not terribly, not like a dressing will be, but they're going to be a little bit. And that's okay, because as they cook, these potatoes, these sweet potatoes, they'll absorb any of that extra liquid. Now we're going to go ahead and put in the sugar. And I told you we turned this into candy. There we go. We got a cup there. But you have to remember, I tell all my family and my friends that on Thanksgiving, all of the food that you make, everything's calorie free. That's just so you can eat, eat, and eat. That's like your free day, and you won't gain any weight as long as you do it all on Thanksgiving. And now we're going to take our vanilla and put just a little bit of vanilla in there. We'll put 2 teaspoons. 1, 2 teaspoons of the vanilla. Let's get that all stirred up. And now we're going to put in our eggs. Let me scoot this over just a little bit. Just going to crack the eggs, and then we are going to beat these little guys just a little bit. Okay, let's dump that in. There we go. I tell you what, that vanilla sure smells good. And now we're just going to continue to mix this all around. And we are just about done. And then we're going to take this and we're going to pour it into our casserole. I already took my casserole dish and I put just a little, I sprayed a little bit of cooking spray in the bottom. So let's bring that over here now and we're going to pour it in there. Okay, here we go. We're going to be using this today. I'm hoping this will work okay, because usually I use one a little bit bigger. I just thought this casserole dish was so pretty. I wanted to use this one today. And guess what? I think it fits perfect. I haven't used this casserole dish for this dish before, but I sure do like this. I might have to use this dish from now on. Let me scoot it up here. It is heavy. This is a very, very heavy casserole. It may not look it, but it is. Okay, now we are ready for that topping. Now for this topping, I just use my fingers. And since I'm doing this dish for friends and we coming over and everything, and it's not just me and Jay, I went ahead and put on some gloves. And so what you do is I'm just going to finish right here. I'm finishing mashing all of this up, and it's pretty nice and thick. And then all I do, let me move this over here. I just take this, and it takes a few minutes to do it, but I just take little pieces of this and start dropping it all over. And if you do this enough, then the little pieces kind of all end up kind of together, and you can kind of mash them together. But you just can't take this and try to spread it, because you'll have a huge mess. So it's better just to take little pieces and just drop this all over your casserole. So here we are. It's taken me about, I think, 2 or 3 minutes to do this so far. And now I'm just going back. I've got quite a bit left. See how much is left. And I'll just go back and I keep dropping it where there are some empty spots. And then that way in a minute, once I've gotten it all done, I can just kind of go back with a flat spoon or something like that and kind of tap it into place. Okay, now here we are. I'll tilt it so you can see it a little better. And sometimes I'll go back with like a spoon or something and kind of mash these down, but I don't think I have to. I think it's pretty well covered. You see a little bit of that sweet potato and some little areas peeking through, and I think that's fine. I think that's pretty. So now let's head over to the oven. I have the oven over here on 350, and we're gonna slide this in, and we're gonna let this go for about 25 minutes, and then we're gonna check on it. Oh my goodness, this sweet potato casserole, y'all, this smells so good. I can't wait to eat it. And look at it, it is absolutely gorgeous. Today we are fixing up a fantastic broccoli casserole. So now let's jump into it and let's talk about the ingredients that you're gonna need for your broccoli casserole. First of all, for your broccoli, you're gonna need about 2 heads of fresh broccoli. You can try frozen, but this is just so much better if you use fresh broccoli. I've gone ahead and already chopped that up. We're also going to be using a little bit of black pepper, just a little bit of salt. You're going to have some Miracle Whip, some mayonnaise, and all these ingredients and directions I'll put in the description section below the video. You're also going to want some cream of mushroom soup, just 1 can. You're going to use a little bit of some shredded cheese. I like to shred my cheese a lot myself for a lot of our recipes, but today we're going to go ahead and already use some pre-packaged shredded cheese. You're going to want to have a stick of butter and then some Ritz crackers, just 1 sleeve of those Ritz crackers, and I went ahead and I've already mashed those up. You want to crumble those up really well. And also you're going to want 2 eggs. And I almost forgot, you're also going to want to use about a half of a medium-sized yellow onion. Now the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take this broccoli that I've already cut up, and I'm going to put it here behind me in the top of this steamer and let this go ahead and get steamed. Now we're not going to cook it all the way, but we want to go ahead and cook it, I would say, about 1/3 of the way, and because the rest of it is going to cook while it's in the casserole. So I've got my broccoli over here. I have it in the steamer, and I'm going to go ahead and cover it. And I'm going to turn this on. Let's see down here. Let's get it going. There we go. We're going to get that water in the bottom of that steamer boiling really well. And then we'll be back and check on this in just a few minutes. And while this is starting to steam, I'm going to go ahead and get that onion chopped up. So now let's check on our broccoli and let's see how it is doing. So it looks like it's been steaming for about 6 or 7 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and stop it now because I don't want to cook it all the way. I just want it to be nice and bright and green. And look at that. Oh, it steamed up my camera. And look at that. Yes, that's exactly what we want. So we're going to turn it off now. We're going to take it off the heat. Now I'm going to take this broccoli and we're just going to put it over here in our bowl, because we're going to mix everything else with it to make the casserole. There we go. Look at that. That broccoli looks beautiful. We have our broccoli in, and now we're going to start mixing in our other ingredients. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put the melted butter all over the top. And like I said, I'll leave the directions and the measurements for all of this in the description below the video. Put a little bit of pepper across the top. I'm going to put a little bit of salt across the top. Just a little. And then I have 2 eggs that I have beaten. I'm going to put those in. Okay. We're going to go ahead and mix that. We're going to put in 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. Now I'm putting in the mayonnaise. This always gets a bit messy. It's a cup of mayonnaise. I always think, whenever I make this, I always think, man, there's too much mayonnaise. But it's not. It turns out fantastic every time. Now we're going to mix everything together that we've put in here so far. And I'm going to add in the onions. Okay, oops, a little bit left. Get those onions all in there, mix them up good. And sometimes, now for this recipe, I don't usually do this for Thanksgiving, but sometimes I'll put mushrooms in here. And I'll saute some mushrooms up on the stovetop, and then I'll put those in here. And that really adds some extra flavor. And now what I'm going to do is take just 1 cup of the cheese. Now remember, we've got more cheese. I've got another cup of cheese over there, and we're going to use that for the topping. But this right here, this is the casserole. Now what we've got to do is we've got to get it all put together. And I don't know about you, but I just love casseroles. We eat casseroles a lot because you can eat them, and I can put them in the refrigerator and we can eat on them for a couple of days. And then if we're tired of them and don't want to eat any more, then we'll just put them in the a Ziploc, like a freezer bag, and I will put it in one of my vacuum seal freezer bags, and then vacuum seal that and put it in the freezer, and then we'll have it later. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in our casserole dish. Now I already took the dish and I've already put some cooking spray on it, so it's ready to go. And today I'm just using my glass one, just a clear glass one. So let's put this in here. Here we go. Let's get it all in. Y'all, this is really smelling. This smells so good. I'm hungry now. I wasn't hungry, but now I am. And this casserole, y'all, this has to be just about one of the easiest ones you can make. I gotta get the top in here for you to see. But really, this casserole, I guess the only thing easier than this is that green bean casserole. But this is easy, and it's always so pretty, and it just tastes fantastic. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get our topping together. Here we go, we've got our topping together. So I want to take this cheese and put this all over, and oh my gosh, this is going to be so nice. This is going to be so nice. Look at this. This is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Now let's take our Ritz crackers, and we're going to put these all over. Look at that. Oh my goodness. This is going to taste so good. I mean, you think about it. Casseroles have to have toppers, right? I mean, you just can't have a casserole without some kind of topping. I think when I make dressing, I don't really put a topping on that. But any other kind of casserole, you think about it, it pretty much, if you're in the South, it pretty much has a topping of something. Okay, there we go. Now let me just kind of push this around just a little. There we go. And now let's head over to the oven. We're going to put this on at 350. It's been preheating, and it's going to go for about 25 minutes. Here we are all ready to go into the oven. So now let me just slide this on in there, and like I said, we're going to go for 25 minutes on 350, and we'll be right back. Our broccoli casserole, look at it, y'all. I think it's done. Let's pull it out. Yes, it's just perfect. It's golden brown on top. It's looking great, and it smells wonderful. Be sure and check out that next video that's popping up. I'll see you there in a few moments. Bye-bye.